That was awkward. Hey everybody, and welcome to my channel. If you're new around here, my name is Dina, and I am an almost 40-year-old living downtown Toronto. As I record this, I'm in Alberta in my parents' house where I grew up, but as you watch this, I'll be back in Toronto. Wow, I'm awkward. Anyways, let's keep going. I have CPTSD and fibromyalgia. A couple of weeks ago, I put out on my Facebook and my Instagram and asked y'all what some questions are that you might have about fibromyalgia or adventuring or just kind of anything about life that you might want my opinion on. And I got 3 beautiful questions, so I'm just going to answer those. So I wrote them down here. The first one was, I need to start a fitness regimen to help with fibro, but I'm not sure where to start. I think that's fantastic, first of all. Let's say that. One of the hardest things with fibromyalgia is choosing to get active, but it's also one of the best things, as you know. That's my opinion. If you've been around here for a while, you know that that's how I feel. So first of all, can I just say I'm really proud of you. The number one thing I want to say is give yourself grace. It's going to be hard, but it's also going to help your mental health and strength as well as your physical strength. And I just applaud you because that's an incredible, incredible thing to want to do. So for me, the number one thing that I had to do was do something that resonated with me that I felt was achievable. So I started with yoga. It turns out I don't enjoy yoga, but that's how I started, and I kept going with that. So it just depends on what you feel is something that you could accomplish right now. And don't set these incredibly insane goals for yourself. Set things that are achievable so that you can succeed. So maybe it's a walk around the block every day for a week, and then maybe you extend it to 2 blocks the next week, 3 blocks the week after that. You know what I mean? And then maybe you go by, walk for half an hour, walk for an hour, whatever that looks like for you. One of the number one ways that I encourage people to get active is swimming. I know that's not something that's accessible for everybody, but swimming has been a game changer for me. Really, really helpful. It's incredible how just that kind of weightlessness that you feel in the pool is really, really beneficial. They also have strength classes and water aerobics, stuff like that, that are very, very helpful in the pool environment as well. So my suggestions are always a pool, getting out for a walk, or some light stretching like yoga or something like that. And you can find videos and stuff like that on YouTube. I went the Beachbody route. That's what was accessible to me at that time, and I really enjoyed it. I genuinely love the company and what they've done for my life, and I'm not trying to sell you on anything. I still do rep them to a degree. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to help out, but I'm not here to push that on you. There's a lot of free, great information on YouTube. Finding an accountability buddy is also very helpful, or someone to do the activity with you. Very, very helpful. Yeah, I'm proud of you. That's awesome. Let me know how it goes, and let me know how you start to move into that. Hi, baby. Hi, baby. Yes, my parents' dog is here. Hi, honey. Hi, little bub. Hey? Do you want to lay down with me? Yeah, there you go. So I had another question. It's actually something that I don't struggle with so much. It came from my friend, and she said that sometimes when she's feeling anxious or panicked, she starts to feel like she needs to throw up. That's not something that I've ever experienced. But when I do feel anxious or panicked, I feel like just that overwhelming thing. My need and desire is to feel like hugged and comforted. So for me, rubbing my hands together and then literally just like cradling my face and feeling that warmth is really helpful and soothing to me. Doing the Huberman, if you know Dr. Andrew Huberman, doing his breathing exercises are very, very helpful as well. If you start to feel like you need to throw up, I think sometimes when I find myself in situations where I'm scared, but the thing that I'm afraid of isn't going to kill me, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like I'm not about to be eaten by a shark, nothing like that. But I have anxiety. I will kind of repeat mantras to myself. So I'll say, I can do hard things. You know, it's one of my tattoos is Philippians 4:13, and I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me as a Christian. That's my favorite Bible verse. And so I repeat to myself often, I can do hard things, I can do hard things, I can do hard things. So maybe it's finding something like that can help calm your mind down in that sense. Beyond that, I honestly don't know. It's not something that I struggle with myself. Like I say, when I feel anxious or panicked, I feel that need to just feel like enveloped in a hug and just comforted in that way, but I've never felt nauseous. So it's unfortunately not something that I can speak to, or fortunately, because that sounds awful and I'm sorry that you deal with that. If anyone that's watching does feel that way, please, if you have any recommendations, drop them below. We'll make sure that she sees them. And the last question was, how do I plan which challenges and adventures I plan to tackle next? And does accessibility ever play into my planning? Such a good question. Yes and no. Yes and no. I've created a pretty big bucket list of things that I want to do. And it really just boils down to what resonates in my soul that year. I, for better or for worse, base a lot of my decisions on this side of things by how I feel inside. Do I feel that it's achievable? I have a pretty good understanding of who I am and what my capabilities are. And if I think that something is achievable, then I will go for it. That said, I make sure that I surround myself with people who will encourage me and support me along the way. I never want to be in the backcountry with someone who I find very demeaning, or, you know, someone who's not going to make me feel safe from an emotional standpoint. So that's something that's very important to me. And thankfully I have found a number of really safe people who help me with these goals. So they're incredible, and they're the girls that I'm going to Peru with. So as I've started my fitness journey and I've started kind of doing these things to push myself and to work to better myself both physically and mentally, because half of the reason why I do these challenges is for the mental strength, because they're really hard. And most of the time they challenge me more mentally than they do physically. I got really distracted there because my mom's dog is licking my hand. I've been able to add more to my list, if that makes sense. So when I started out, I definitely made sure that I was doing things, again, that felt accessible at the time and maybe pushed me a tiny bit, and also went into those hikes or those runs with the grace that I can stop and turn around at any point in time. I think that's a very important thing to keep in mind too, is I never give 100% if I can help it, because I'm always keeping that tiny bit of reserve inside so that I know that I can turn around. You never want to start heading up a mountain and give it your all on the way up. You want to be able to turn around and come back down safely, you know? I'm pretty good with understanding what I'm able to tackle hiking-wise these days. That said, for me it was important to get a trainer and to have them build the strength and work on like little tiny like wiggles that I have inside of me and niggles that I have inside of me that hurt. So like the whole left side of my body just needs to be replaced. Let's be real, it's not great. But I have trainers now that are helping me to make it stronger and work through these like tiny injuries and weaknesses that I have. So that really helps. But when it came to deciding that, hey, I wanted to do a 5K, that was all me, and that was just grit and determination. When I decided I wanted to do a 10K, same thing. When I decided I wanted to do a half marathon, that was something that I looked to my trainer and said, can I do this? And they said, why not? And so I went, okay, great. And then they helped me achieve that. With the marathon, it was the same thing. Why not? And I went, okay, if you think I can do it. So sometimes I do need that like validation from someone else saying that I can do the hard thing. Sometimes I also just don't do any research and go into it and then go, oh, sorry, what? We're up climbing a waterfall today? I didn't know that was happening. And that's a true story. So if I'm with someone else who makes me feel safe, I'm usually okay. I very specifically, when I decided to do my first ever solo hikes, just day hikes, never a through hike yet, I made sure that there were trails that had a lot of people on them, that were quite busy, and they were trails that I'd done before, because I needed that familiarity and just that sense that other people are around to make me feel more comfortable. So it really just came down to my comfort level. I will push my comfort level to a certain degree, but it's going to be different if I'm hiking with someone as opposed to being by myself, doing something hard by myself. And how do I decide what I'm going to do? A lot of it kind of falls into my lap, or I get invited. The West Coast Trail, for instance, which was my first big through hike, a friend and I, who were singing the same operatic role in Portland, Oregon, were going on a hike one day, and she said, "Hey, do you know about the West Coast Trail?" And that's what started that. And it got me involved in that. And that opened up the door, because on that hike is where my friend and I met Patricia and Shannon. Shannon, who ran the half marathon and the full marathon with me, and Patricia, who has taken me on a portage and on a through hike with her. And she's the one that I do most of my hikes with in Ontario. So that was just incredible happenstance. And then the four of us are the ones that are going to Peru. So that was kind of cool. La Cloche Silhouette Trail, Patricia invited me. She had hiked with me enough at that point to know what my general pace was and how I worked. And she said, "Hey, why not? Let's go do this." And same for the portage. She asked if I wanted to go on a portage, and I said, sure. I'd never been on one before, and she tends to like to plan, and she keeps me alive. So that's how we do that. The Grand Canyon, I wanted to do a rim to rim, and Michelle really wanted to do Havasupai Falls. And what happened was we had everything planned back to back to do those two trips together, and then COVID hit. So that didn't end up being a thing, but we did end up being able to do the rim to rim. What was that, last year or the year before? So 2 summers ago. And that was just sheer desire. I wanted to see the Grand Canyon, and if I'm gonna go to the Grand Canyon, why not hike it? Because that's who I've turned into, apparently. Peru has been on the bucket list since I was in college. I remember talking to a friend in college saying, I want to hike to Machu Picchu. I didn't know anything about the hike. I didn't know what all was involved. I just knew I wanted to do it. And now finally for our 40th birthdays, it's coming to fruition. Kilimanjaro is on that list. I'd love to do that. I'd love to do Everest Base Camp. I know at some point I want to do the Camino de Santiago, probably solo. There are some mountain summits in the Rockies that I'd like to do. I've done the Canmore Triple Crown Challenge, but I'd like to do it again. I'd like to finally summit Grotto, which I haven't done. Yamnuska, my favorite mountain. I'd like to swim Alcatraz, which sounds stupid. I'd love to do Ragbri, which is just cycling across Iowa. There's a lot. There's a lot in this brain that I'd like to do. I need to get in a century ride first, which is a 100-kilometer ride on my bike. But I've really discovered that I love triathlon, so it's just less taxing on the body, which sounds crazy, than like running a really long distance, unless you're doing an Ironman, which you have to run a full marathon at the end of doing some other crazy distances. I have no desire to do an Ironman, but I'd like to do an Olympic one day. And yeah, it's just goals that resonate within my soul and my heart. And that's really what it boils down to. I hope that helps. I know that was a lot of rambling, but I hope that helps. I'm always open to any questions that you might have, as long as they're not weird. But my DMs are always open. Feel free to comment below if you have any questions. Reach out to me on Instagram if you have any questions, and I'll do this again when I have more questions to answer. I'm here if you need to chat. All right, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and I hope you guys make it a great day. Please like and subscribe, and I look forward to our next one. Thanks for being here.